There's new hope in the fight against the global spread of coronavirus. A new vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech was found to be 90% effective. Now, this is the most encouraging scientific advance so far in the fight against the pandemic. Joining us is Professor Jeffrey Mphahlele, Vice President for Research at SAMRC and member of the Ministerial Advisory Committee on Vaccines. Professor Mphahlele, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. 90% effective. Surely that's fantastic news. What are your immediate thoughts around it?
Good morning. Certainly very good news for the world, especially because we never thought that we will have a vaccine that will be able to generate that kind of efficacy. However, we need to interpret the data with caution because this is just preliminary data as we speak. So there's still going to be follow-up of the study participants to assess the true efficacy of the vaccine.
As a member of the Committee on Vaccines, have you had the chance to perhaps look into the medical journal of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine?
So the results were announced yesterday by the company. So this is not published results. So they are not available in the peer-reviewed scientific journals. It's only announcement from the company. But that said, I think it's really positive and encouraging news. And we're looking forward to see whether the results will be published. And that will probably be in the near future once they have done full analysis of efficacy.
As this is preliminary results that we're looking at now, the 90%, as you warn, we should see it with a bit of caution and receive it that way. What does that then mean if these are preliminary results in terms of what the final outcome could present with this vaccine?
Maybe let's put it this way. For every vaccine clinical trial, you do have what we call primary endpoints. And for this particular vaccine, the primary endpoints was to really look for people or rather participants in the trial who will develop COVID-19 vaccine. And the figure that they were targeting for or is being targeted is 164 participants. So the reason we call it preliminary results is because the results are based on only 94 volunteers or participants who have developed COVID-19 vaccine. But it's good news in the sense that those who developed COVID-19 vaccine seem to have received the placebo vaccine and not necessarily the experimental vaccine, which means that those who received the experimental vaccine were largely protected from COVID-19 disease.
And how accessible will this vaccine be to South Africa as a third world country in terms of order of importance?
Well, we still have a long way to go. As I mentioned, the most important thing is that the trial should continue all the way to the end to determine the true efficacy of the vaccine. And once that has been done, we also need to understand the safety of the vaccine. We don't have, data on phase 3 efficacy study on the vaccine safety. So that data is still outstanding. And then there will be regulatory hurdles that one has to go through to make sure that the vaccine is registered. If not registered by a regulatory authority, at least it will be available for emergency use. And the only hurdle that I see about this vaccine is the requirement for ultra low temperature. So it requires special cold chain, -70 storage. And this infrastructure is not readily available in most developing countries. Certainly, it's not readily available in South Africa, whether you're looking at the public sector or the private sector. But it's not a challenge that is insurmountable.
And are there any intentions for South Africa to have their own trial before the vaccine is available to the country?
There is a Pfizer clinical trial taking place in South Africa, and I'm not sure if these results include the trial that is taking place in South Africa. But the good news is that we will also have an idea in terms of the efficacy of the vaccine in our own setting.
And as we assess these these outcomes, the big question is who exactly will be prioritized here when it comes to rolling it out eventually?
That is a big question, and different countries may have different priority groups. I think what most countries agree on is the fact that you will have to prioritize groups like healthcare workers because they are exposed to patients and they are at risk of COVID-19 infection. And then there are other groups such as the elderly who develop severe outcome of infection. And that could be the group that should be prioritized. But I think what is going to happen is that each country will have to come up with a priority list of people who will get the vaccine when the vaccine becomes commercially available.
And at what point do you believe that it will be rolled out to those who have been prioritized in terms of perhaps their health and how they've been monitored with COVID-19 symptoms or infection?
Well, in terms of availability of the vaccine, possibly the vaccine will be available in the US and some parts of Europe towards the end of the year, if not probably, the early part of 2021. And availability in South Africa might be a little bit delayed. And it's not all bad news because at the moment, we are not going through the second wave like you see in Europe and the US. So once the vaccine becomes available at a large scale, we have got enough supply, then most countries will become eligible to get the vaccine. And I think South Africa will be one of those countries.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time there, Professor Jeffrey Mphahlele, Vice President for Research at SAMRC and a member of the Ministerial Advisory Committee on Vaccines, reacting there to Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, which has been found, according to preliminary results, to be 90% effective.